Hello. So this is my bibliographic essay or video. Uh, the first part of information that I need to provide is discussing the sources I've found so far and analyzing their credibility. I also need to provide details about each source, how they were found, what makes them viable, and how I can imagine them affecting my ideas or supporting my ideas. The vast majority of these sources were found through targeted research. I knew the basics of Reaganomics, which is my topic. It is the effects, the real effects, and the perceived effects by students at UC Blue Ash of Reaganomics. Um, and I knew I had sort of a basis of understanding of Reaganomics and what happened during the Reagan presidency, so I knew where to go for. And so I'm going to just go through my normal sources that I'm pretty sure I'm good with using so that I can then do my iffy and best source because those are specific prompts. My first one, Reaganomics Rhetoric versus Reality. It is a primary source it is a first-hand account. It's very detailed and it goes over the effects of Reaganomics. It is a sort of biased against. It's a negative report, but it really helps analyze the effects. And even with the negative bias, it just so happens that it might be their opinion or the actual occurrence, and it provides some good viewpoints on the topic. It was written in 1982. It's obviously credible. It's a primary source, and yeah, written by a credible author. Another source of mine is Jimmy Carter's Malaise speech. It is a speech in which he blamed the American public for the faults of the economy at the time. I think it'll help a lot with my contextualization because it really is the reason that Reagan was accepted so easily and the reason that his policies were the way they were because they were a complete 180 from what Carter was doing. Um, my another one of my sources is economic and social policies under the Reagan administration. Again, this is another one. It's just documenting the effects. It was also written in 1983, so it's still primary source, like it's going on at the time, and it just documents the effects of the Reagan administration, how things are going. Another one of my sources is a speech by Reagan himself addressed to the nation on defense and national security, and basically this was a source in which it is a speech Reagan gives in which he explains why he needs to spend more money for the Star Wars, which is the Space Initiative (SDI), and it was great. It was specifically contradictory to the policies of Reaganomics for him to spend that much money, but it, his speech documents why he did it and explains a lot and could in pending the results of my research inquiry could explain some of the feelings about him. And so I think it's very important to get like his viewpoint on it. Like this is why he did this. Um, and so those have been my sources that I'm pretty good with. I think that was five. A source I am discarding is a was Article 8 from the California legislative body, and it was the proposition that Reagan instituted when he was governor before he became president. And initially, I thought it would be good to have, but I think it really just is too much of a background. Like Reagan's activities before he became president, although they're kind of prefacing it, it's too much of a background for what I think is needed. Um, my a source that I'm kind of considering is a source by Calvin Coolidge in which he talks. It was from the Coolidge Foundation in which he talks about how much he learned about his economic policies from Hamilton. I think this might give an interesting perspective on it because the supply side theory kind of grew from Hamilton to Coolidge to Reagan, and I think it might give a little basis for that. But again, with the last one that I discarded, I do think that there's some element of just a big possibility of going too far back and just missing the point. This might sound a little bit contradictory. However, my favorite source is the Legacy of Proposition 13, which is a primary source. And I know that this is a documentation of the California laws that Reagan instituted when he was governor, but rather than a citation of them, which was what the article was, like the Article 8 of the legislative body, this is actually firsthand accounts from people about um, what happened when Reagan instituted his supply side economics into California as the governor. And so while I think yes, it is a preface, it is outdated, it wasn't as president, it's a microcosmic scale of what people in the real world would think about it, and it's a primary source. And I think just the interviews and the real world accounts could be very, very helpful. And I believe I did go a little bit overboard on time, sadly, but what I'm missing in my sources, I definitely feel like I could get a little bit more personal opinion, maybe look for a public opinion when Reagan was president rather than just Proposition 13. Although I do think the Proposition 13 one is going to be very good. I've already started looking through it. I did get all my sources like from the public library, from searches, because I knew what I was looking for and it wasn't like extremely difficult. Uh, Additional sources. I'm strongly considering using my dad as my interview because although not a specialist, he is considerably like aware of politics, was alive during the time, and I think would provide a perspective similar, but also one that can be compared to that of UC students about Reaganomics and Reagan's presidency. Awesome. So, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm sorry that I went a little bit overboard, but I think the information was worth covering, and I'm glad I did this. Thank you very much.